Hello everyone, my name's Ian Calvert. I hope you're all doing well. In researching Scandinavia, I was very impressed with the Finnish model for education. And I was curious if that policy would work outside of Finland and why or why not. Education's obviously super important. It's a way for the older generation to prepare the new one to fill their shoes and even guide them towards the future. Yet many countries around the globe are failing to provide a quality education for their students, even though they're spending as much as countries that are excelling. Finland does not have this problem. They consistently rank among the highest performers for education, as well as the most equitable education across their population. So it's a natural tendency for countries to maybe look at Finland and adopt their policies for themselves. But Finland is a small, homogeneous society, so how successful could their education policies really be if used in a larger or more diverse nation? Few aspects of the Finnish education system rely on its small size or a unique culture in order to succeed. Contrary to other high-performing nations like Singapore and South Korea, Finnish students actually spend less time in class and are assigned less homework. Finland doesn't rely on outspending other countries for their success either. 93% of Finns graduate secondary school, 17.5% higher than the rate in the United States. And 66% go on to higher education, which is the highest number in the European Union. Yet Finland spends 30% less per student than in the United States. Finland owes a lot of this efficiency to a system known as decentralization, where power is taken away from the federal and given to the local and school levels. Other countries have had greater success when implementing a decentralized system. El Salvador implemented a decentralized system in the early 90s. And as you can see from this chart of literacy rates, El Salvador has increased their literacy from 74.1% in the early 90s to 87.6% in 2015. And this has come along with increased enrollment for students. Nicaragua has also had success in implementing decentralization. They gave local control to some districts and kept others federally managed, and the districts that were locally managed performed better and had more attendance than the ones that were federally managed. The success of decentralization in diverse nations lends credence to the idea that it could work anywhere. However, it's clear that countries can fall into pitfalls, so they must be careful when implementing decentralization so that poorer communities are given support and don't lag behind. Another key aspect to Finnish education that may seem foreign to us in the United States is their lack of standardized testing and holding teachers accountable for those tests. They do implement tests around the country, but they are often optional, and teachers are never punished or awarded for good or bad performance. The tests are purely to gather data and see if a community is struggling and needs extra support. Other countries that have done similar systems have found equal amounts of success. Germany has implemented a similar system to Finland's in terms of testing. They have mandatory testing for 3rd and 8th graders, which might sound like the US model, but much like Finland, they don't use the information to penalize schools. Instead, they use tests to see which schools are in need of extra funding and try to address that issue. Since implementing this testing, Germany has gone from the most unequal education performance between highest performing and lowest performing students to around the world average, right with countries like the United States. Schools often perform worse due to a lack of funding or because their community is one that tends to struggle in school. So by punishing schools for failing standardized tests, countries can make poorer communities fall further and further behind while awarding richer communities and having them push ahead, thus creating more inequality. But Germany and Finland not penalizing schools for poor performance but instead supporting them tends to reduce inequity and bring up performance for all students. The success of testing without penalties in both the relatively small and homogeneous population of Finland and the much larger, more diverse country of Germany, which actually shares the same percentage of immigrants, around 15, as the United States, means that there's a lot of evidence that other countries should implement this type of testing in order to promote more equity in their societies. So, is there evidence to suggest that following Finland's model of education is a good idea for other countries with different situations than Finland's? Evidence from around the globe would suggest that decentralization, a key aspect to Finnish education, works really well in a lot of societies. Countries that haven't done as well with decentralization have fallen into some mistakes that Finland has already thought of and addressed. Furthermore, evidence would suggest that moving away from standardized testing that punishes and rewards teachers based on their performance has been effective in both the small country of Finland and the much larger Germany, leading one to assume that it would work across a variety of nations. Kristin Ingebrigtsen has suggested that Scandinavia serves as norm entrepreneurs for the rest of the world, leading paths for others to follow in areas such as the environment and global peace. Evidence would suggest that Finland should be looked to as a norm entrepreneur in the field of education, as their results are consistently among the top performers in the world, and their policies have been shown to be replicable. Maybe if more countries adopted Finnish education policies, the world could move that much closer to equity for everyone.